It's the same old thing as yesterday.
Welcome to the House of Pain, brought to you by the ARP Wave Clinic. Now, along with Dennis Thompson, here's your host, the common man, Dan Cole.
Greetings and good morning once again. I'm the common man, Dan Cole, along with Dennis Thompson, the founder of the ARP Wave Clinic. The show is called House of Pain, where we try to answer your questions and tell you a little bit about how to relieve your pain via the House of Pain, the ARP Wave Clinic way. Dennis, again, good morning. Thanks for joining us again.
Good morning, Common. Always good to see you.
Tell me, let's cut right to the chase. First of all, just tell people what the ARP Wave system is.
Well, basically, the system is designed to find the problem at its origin, not at the symptom. So many of the listeners out there who have pain, say in the knee, they believe they have a knee problem. And what we tell them is that's where the problem ended, not where it comes from. So the system is designed to, first off, find the origin of the problem, get rid of the origin, and therefore the symptoms then will vanish.
And you do it with an electronic. How would you describe?
Well, it's an electrical modality. It's a Class 2 medical device, and the very first step in the system, if you remember, is we had to find out, was the nervous system sending the appropriate electrical signal to the muscles? So we do a simple test called a muscle test to determine, is the muscle turning on or turning off fast enough to absorb force? If it isn't, you're either already hurt or going to get hurt. So once we identify that and get all those switches working, then the next thing we have to do is fix the damage caused by the muscle not doing its job. And we do that with the ARP. And the ARP is primarily our proprietary tool. It's an electrical stimulation device which stimulates the muscles at extraordinarily high velocity, allowing active range of motion. And then if you remember, the third part is building the strength back up in the body that's been lost due to that issue that the individual had been suffering.
You have a clinic in Burnsville, and you see patients there weekly. Weekly basis, over and over again. This week, give me an idea of some of your more challenging cases, just this week alone.
Well, as this is airing right now, I have Jay in here with us right now, and he was my most challenging case. And so I think if we begin to talk to him a little bit, we'll get an understanding of just exactly why it was such a challenging case. So I'll turn the mic over to Jay, and he can kind of tell us his story, and then you and I can kind of ask him questions if that works. Okay,
Jay, thanks for joining us here in studio. I've already been briefed on your situation because we mentioned, we talked about it in a previous show, but just kind of give us the scenario, what happened.
Well, a week ago Sunday, I was riding my motorcycle. Happens to be 200 horsepower, so it can get kind of violent on its own. And I was leaving Dennis's house after a couple 100-mile fun ride and entering the freeway. And as I went to shift gears, my throttle stuck wide open. And before I knew it, I was put into a full wheelie at 100 miles an hour. I really have never done a wheelie before, so I didn't know how to react, but I pulled in the clutch, sat up on the tank, came down on the ground, and the left handlebar broke. As the left handlebar broke, I could no longer hold the clutch in, and the motorcycle went wild again and accelerated to 112 miles an hour. And at that point, I wasn't sure what to do, so I just laid the bike down, and I was kind of between the bike and the road for about a quarter of a mile at 100 miles an hour until it slowed down and flipped me off.
You're alive right now? That was my first question. How do you survive it? Were you wearing helmet? Were you wearing leather? Were you wearing, long sleeves, long pants?
I only always wear the most efficient protective gear possible. I don't go anywhere without the best gear. Okay. So I had the best gear on. I'm in great condition, and I wore gear.
And the amazing thing about that comment is that we had no road rash at all. He had a helmet on and full leathers, no road rash at all. However, he couldn't move his arm. We thought that the shoulder had been broken. Couldn't move his neck. Thought maybe we broke C5, C6. Thought that there was some other serious damage. Couldn't stand up. Couldn't weight bear at all. and then we began the treatment process.
Okay.
I'll let Jay tell you exactly what happened.
Well, just before the treatment process, after you came to a stop and you're laying in a heap, did you lose consciousness? Did someone pull over on the side of the road? I mean, someone must have stopped. I don't think you just got up and walked away from it immediately. What happened right after it went down?
Well, my son was behind me on his motorcycle, and he saw me go into this wheelie, and he heard the engine, so he knew there was a problem because this had occurred 6-7 times before. We thought it had been fixed by the dealer, and it wasn't. And so he stopped traffic behind me. And immediately, as it was happening, he was calling Dennis because he knew there was going to be a problem. So he got Dennis on the phone. And I'm sure I lost consciousness at some point. I don't truly know that for sure, but I'm sure I did because I had a concussion. I had trouble controlling my right eye and the eyelid, and the pupil didn't respond appropriately. But I did get up or try and stand up and do things. And we loaded the bike up, went home. And immediately, Dennis and I started administering treatments with the ARP.
So you did not go to the hospital or anything? No ambulance came, anything like that?
No,
Okay.
I do not do that. I have Dennis and I have the ARP.
Okay. So then what happened? So you go, Dennis. What was the first step there then?
Well, the first step was that we had to identify just exactly where all the damage was because it was giving us tremendous evidence that there was a lot of significant damage. So we did our muscle test. We found out that there were certain groups of muscles that were completely shut off. And then, well, Common, you know from using the ARP that when you're on active, you can feel the energy coming in. And then sometimes I've had you on background. Well, Jay lives at 10. We sleep with it every night at 10.
Right.
Okay. I searched and destroyed basically that little technique I showed you how to find the hot spot. I had to search on him on background. And I found 11 spots on background that were 10 plus in his head.
Wow.
Which was absolutely unheard of. So we had him on a protocol. Every hour on the hour, he would be on the ARP. We had, how many, Jay? We had 4 ARPs. We had 4 ARPs on him. And every other hour, he would take a break, and we would do another stimulus. And at the end of that first day, we gained almost full range of motion back in the neck, almost full range of motion back in the hip and the leg, almost full range of motion in the shoulder.
How did you determine that there wasn't anything like broken, like he had a broken back or a broken neck or anything? Or could you just know by the way he could still move and such?
We knew basically. Our big concern was, did he break the shoulder or did he break his neck,
Right.
obviously. And he responded very, very efficiently to the muscle test, number one. Then we had him see our doctor, and we had him put back in balance all the things that were out of whack the following day, because this was on a Sunday, obviously. And then Monday, we had him see the doctor. The doctor then turned the switches back on. And then that night, we did a very aggressive treatments. And I'll kind of let Jay tell you a little bit about that.
Okay, Jay. So what happened then?
Well, I was hooked up to 4 ARPs at one time. So there are 4 electrodes from each ARP. I had them all over my body. And they were working in a sequence in order to simulate that I was moving, or my brain would think I was moving. And they would come on and off very powerfully. Sometimes, I wouldn't say it was comfortable, but as I was going through these for the hour, I could feel things returning to normal. And within 2 days, I was actually up doing normal things. Still had some discomfort, but was doing all my normal activities. I went to work, and, because Dennis doesn't like to pay you if you don't show up. And by the 5th day, I was normal, and if I had a motorcycle again, I would begin riding. And right now, I feel absolutely nothing. I lifted this morning and did all my normal training and all normal activities.
Amazing. Imagine if Evel Knievel would have had you back in those days, like at Caesar's Palace.
Exactly.
He would have got right back up and he would have done it the next day instead of being in a hospital in traction for about a year and a half. If only Evel Knievel would have had you. We're talking with Dennis Thompson. Jay, thanks for sharing your story with us. That's amazing. Jay Schrader, I'm looking at him. He's moving around today after Evel Knieveling his motorcycle just about a week or so ago. Dennis Thompson's the founder of the ARP Wave Clinic and the ARP Wave System. I'm the Common Man, Dan Cole. We'll take a short break. We'll come back with more of the House of Pain here on The Fan.
You're listening to the House of Pain on The Fan.